Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. The issue that is really dividing Americans, that is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Whether it's Obamacare, the food stamp explosion, the punishment of convicts, or a myriad of other social issues, the big chasm among Americans is between those like me, who believe in personal responsibility and self-reliance, and those who will not make judgments on behavior and want the federal government to provide support and solace to those who cannot or will not compete in the American marketplace or obey the law. Let's look at one very brutal and stark example of what you're talking about. 14-year-old Shavliva Das was a troubled teen living in a poor section of the Bronx in New York City. Kid was being raised by a single mother, no father around, had several arrests on his sheet, including attempted murder and possession of a gun. Shavliva was allegedly part of a gang called the Nine, the nickname of a gun and of his block. At 3 a.m. on Sunday morning, August 4th, police confronted the teenager who was shooting at a man in the street. According to the NYPD, Shavliva turned his gun toward the officers and was then shot dead. After the incident, the boy's aunt said this.
What if he did have a gun? That give you the right to shoot him in the head, a kid? The police can kill our kids. It's not fair. It's not fair for the police to be able to kill our kids.
Now, grief can cause people to say foolish things, so that woman should get some slack for her comments. But police officers are human beings. They have a right to protect themselves when someone is shooting a gun, which the teenager did 3 times that night. Sadly, this terrible incident goes back to what Talking Points has been reporting. Shavliva Das was a victim of circumstances that are not being confronted by American leadership or by the civil rights industry. No one forced Shavliva's mother to birth him out of wedlock. No one forced his cowardly father to ignore the boy. No outside entity allowed the 14-year-old to roam the streets at 3 in the morning. No one forced him to shoot a gun in the street or to fail to heed the police warning. Those were all personal decisions, and society is not responsible for them. The boy was doomed by his parents, who would not control him. No amount of tax money given to people who will make them responsible. No amount of hand-wringing by the left will solve the problem. It must be solved one person at a time. Till that message begins to get out, violence and hopelessness will continue to consume poor precincts and devastate families. As I've said, many media and politicians don't care enough about the issue to be honest about it. The grievance industry is in it for the money and power. And the far left simply refuses to confront the basic problem because it does not fit their ideology. Thus, nothing gets done, and racial divisions grow wider. Last month in Gulfport, Florida, 3 black kids, all 15 years old, attacked a 13-year-old white boy on a school bus.
They're about to beat this boy to death over here. Please get somebody up quick. And they still do it. I know I can do. Leave the boy alone. Leave him alone. Leave him alone. You know y'all going to jail. Y'all going to jail.
The victim had a broken arm, multiple other injuries. The 15-year-olds are charged with aggravated battery and will likely face an adult court. Few national media even covered the story because it was blacks attacking a white. In the wake of Trayvon Martin, if it had been 3 white boys attacking a black, there would have been massive media coverage. So why the double standard? A politically correct and cowardly media is the answer to that question. By the way, no fair-minded person should believe that most black Americans want to hurt whites. They don't. That bus attack was about 3 thugs beating up a kid who objected to their behavior. There's no evidence the crime is any more than that. But there's plenty of evidence that the power structure in America doesn't want to help solve the dissolution of the traditional family, which is the root from which violence and personal failure grows. Shavliva Das is yet another vivid example of that truth. And that's a memo. Now for the top story tonight, reaction from both the left and the right. First up, Bernie Goldberg, who joins us now from North Carolina. And you say?
I say that I agree with your analysis, and I would add one word to the conversation, just one word. The word is tolerance, which is a very important word in the liberal vocabulary because it's what distinguishes them, in their mind anyway, from conservatives who they think are intolerant. The problem, Bill, is that as liberals became more and more tolerant of all the right things, like equal rights for everybody, they became indiscriminately tolerant. So by their silence, they became tolerant of 15-year-old girls having babies. By their silence, they became tolerant of boys and young men who abandon their children. They even became tolerant of violence in inner city neighborhoods of our big cities by either downplaying or flat out ignoring the violence. And the media are also tolerant because they don't want to cover these stories. Tolerance is normally and usually a good thing, but not always. Not when we're tolerant of dysfunctional and destructive behavior. And then, who does it hurt, Bill? Not you, not me, but it hurts the very people that these tolerant liberals claim to care about the most.
Well, and it also hurts the country, though. See, the country
Yes,
now,
it does.
It's all coming down to the haves and the have-nots. All right, it's the haves and the have-nots. All right, and when you look at the have-nots, there's no one trying to solve their problem. This aunt that came on the air, not only did she say that the police didn't have a right to defend themselves from a 14-year-old, they didn't know how old he was. He's a guy in the street at 3 in the morning with a gun shooting it, turning on them. I mean, any human being would have defended themselves. But the aunt, no, they don't have a right to do that. And she believes it. She believes it. Okay, this woman, you know, has been inculcated to the victimization. So, you know, we're oppressed, they're after us, they're gunning us down, bop, 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 bop. And then you see the 3 black kids on the bus could have killed, as the bus driver said, the white kid. Everybody ignores it totally.
That's right.
The situation is not being dealt with honestly, Bernie, and that is harming our country.
Absolutely true. And in the case of the aunt, as you said, people, you know, in turmoil after something like this say foolish things. But let's take that case on the bus. This was look, whether that was a racial attack or not, and I suspect that it was, just as I suspect that race had something to do with the Trayvon Martin situation. This was a great opportunity, not for an aunt or a mother or a brother, but for the civil rights industry, as you call it, for Al Sharpton, for instance, to say, whether race had anything to do with this or not, we will not tolerate this. We, black people, will not tolerate this.
That would be bad for Sharpton's business to do that. But I disagree with you on the racial motive.
Let me just make the point.
Wait, Bernie, I gotta make this point because it's important and it's in context. All right, and I'll give you the last word. The fight was about this kid, this white kid, objecting to the sale of drugs by these 3 black kids, okay?
Right.
I think, and he confronted him and said, look, I don't want this in my face, all right? And then they beat him up. I think if the kid had been black, they would have beat him up too. So I don't think it was racial on this one. All right, go ahead.
Let me say this. Anytime 3 white kids beat up a black kid, I'm guessing race has something to do with it. And anytime 3 black kids beat up a white kid, I'm guessing race also has something to do with it. But on the Sharpton matter, he could have gained some credibility.
No, he doesn't care.
He
doesn't care. He's talking to his people. He doesn't want credibility. He wants to be a demagogue. That's what he wants to be.
He's like the Palestinians. He never misses an opportunity to miss an opportunity, and he missed it on that one.
Bernie, he doesn't care. His rhetoric over the last month, attacking me dishonestly and everything else, has shown him for what he is. He's a hustler. You know it, I know it, and everybody else knows it. Bernie Goldberg, everybody.